Hi, welcome to the writing channel on Vlogitorial. My name is Elizabeth Ann Atkins, and I am a published author, a journalist, an actress, a poet, a teacher, a health and fitness enthusiast, a spiritual person, and right now I just want to tell you about myself so that you'll know more about me. I got started writing for as long as I can remember, actually. I've been writing. English has always been my favorite subject. I always got A's in diagramming sentences, and I always won the spelling bees, and so I love words. I have grown up watching my father journal at the dining room table every single night. So I grew up watching my father write. And when I got to high school, I had creative writing and I loved it. I was in AP English, and I loved just putting words together, expressing ideas. And even though I loved it, I still wanted to be a doctor. That was my dream. I was really good at AP biology and chemistry, and I was really smart in high school. But when I got to the University of Michigan as a pre-med student, I flunked chemistry twice. I also didn't do well in algebra or physics. And so I decided that it wasn't a good fit for me to pursue the pre-med curriculum. And I became an English major, which I absolutely loved. I had amazing classes. And then one of my friends was like, why don't you try the Michigan Daily, the campus newspaper? And so I went and I wrote a story about housing shortage on campus. And at first I was like, oh, that's kind of a boring topic. Nobody's going to read this. And the next day I was walking through the hallway at school and I heard people talking about my article. And that was so exciting. It's like, oh my goodness. Writing lets you influence people. It lets you share information. It makes a difference in a good way. And so I was hooked. I became a writer and reporter at the Michigan Daily for the rest of my time at the University of Michigan. And then I got internships at the Lansing State Journal. And after I graduated from Michigan, I worked at the San Diego Tribune as a reporter intern for about 5 months. Let me backtrack just a tiny bit. I was a member of the National Association of Black Journalists, which is an amazing national organization that, actually it's international, is so awesome for people to network and meet people. So I was at the first convention that I attended. It was in New York City. And there, I went to the job fair and I met someone from Columbia University's Graduate School of Journalism. Meanwhile, I was seeing the sights and sounds of New York City for the first time, and I'm like, I want to live here. So I applied to Columbia because that was the fastest route to getting there as a college student, moving, Anyway, I applied, and then I went to San Diego, and while in San Diego, I learned that I'd been accepted to the Graduate School of Journalism at Columbia. And so that following fall, I went to school there, and it was the best experience. Oh my goodness, it was super intensive. I learned so much. We had classes all over the city. I studied broadcast journalism, so we learned about editing and reporting, and it was just, I had a class at the United Nations. We were actually reporting stories alongside the BBC, and oh, it was just a fascinating experience. I also had a part-time job at the New York Times as a copy clerk, so I got to see the inner workings of my favorite newspaper. That was really fun. So then after that, I got an internship at the Detroit News, came back home, and then they hired me as a full-time reporter, and I started covering race relations. That was really amazing because my stories influenced people in a way that got them thinking about race in a new way. And that all grew out of my master's thesis at Columbia, writing about being biracial. My mother's African American and my father was English, French Canadian, Cherokee. And they always celebrated the diversity in our family and always taught me and my sister to embrace and celebrate all the parts that make us whole. And so to be able to write my master's thesis about that and to have a portion of it even published in the New York Times, that was amazing because that sparked dialogue nationally. I was on a lot of radio programs and TV programs because it was a hot, hot topic and still is, race. And I was presenting a perspective that was unique, and that was thrilling. And I was actually fulfilling that same mission in journalism that got me hooked in the first place, is that you can write things that influence and uplift and educate people and make a positive contribution to the world. So from there, at the Detroit News, I was so into my writing, I decided I wanted to write a novel. So I started writing my first novel. It was called White Chocolate. And of course, it's about a journalist, a TV reporter, whose mission in life is to fight racism. And that reporter, Taylor James, she's biracial, and she uses her dual perspective to serve as a human bridge between people to promote human harmony. From there, my second book, Dark Secret, is about someone who's passing for white. That means if I never told anybody that I'm part African American, I would be passing for white. I would be pretending that I'm all white. And people who look like me are able to do that because most people could never guess. Some people can. What my background is. So that story is one of my favorites because it just shines a light on so many dynamics throughout history. And I actually visited some plantations in Virginia because my story is partly set on a plantation in Virginia, and that enabled me to weave the twisted history regarding race and slavery and all that into my story. And I've always been fascinated by Sally Hemings, who had children with President Thomas Jefferson. And so I was able to draw upon that sort of historic content and use it in my story, and I just love Dark Secret. And then I had the good fortune of meeting Billy D. Williams, the actor, and we wrote a book together called Twilight, and not the vampire books. This is a different story. The word twilight is symbolic because mixed race people live in sort of the twilight between nighttime and daytime, light and dark, black and white. So we loved that, and he's a painter, so he was fascinated by the gradations of people and humanity and textures, and it was just, so we explored all that in the story, and it's about a movie star who falls in love with a judge who doesn't know what her background is. And they meet in Brazil. It's a really steamy connection they have. And then they go back to LA where they both live and realize they're both forbidden fruit because of a situation that they're in. So highly suspenseful, highly sensuous, again exploring the mixed race issues, which I love to talk about. And so then after that, I also was asked to start ghost writing for people who wanted a book written but didn't have the skill or the time. So I started writing biographies or how-to books for business people, and I did a lot of those. One of them was for Ken Tyson. He was a quadriplegic, and he always dreamt of owning a record company. And he one day achieved that, and he wanted to write a book about it. So I wrote his autobiography for him about how he was living his dream despite the tremendous obstacle of being a quadriplegic. Another one I wrote was for a family who was on The Biggest Loser, the NBC TV show The Biggest Loser, the Morelli family. They were really hugely successful in their weight loss, and their whole family actually lost, I think together they lost 800 pounds or something like that. Amazing story, and I was so honored to serve as their writer. And since then, I've written other books for other people and worked with a surgeon, an intuitive medium, executives who want to put their stories in writing. It's not always for publication. It could just be to chronicle their life for their family. So it's really amazing and wonderful to be able to share my gift with other people to put their stories in writing so they can be saved forever and celebrated by their families. So then after that, I've also written other books. Let's see, I wrote 2 anthologies and where I contributed stories with 3 other women writers, which were really amazing. And I also wrote a screenplay called Redemption. It's about a gangster, like a really glamorous, handsome gangster who wants to repent and make up to his family and society and God for all the sins he's committed in his life. And so he connects with a struggling writer to help tell his story and tell the truth to the world. And that's a very suspenseful story that I hope someday is made into a movie. I also am an actress. I played a major role in a film called Anything is Possible. And it's about a little boy whose mother disappears, and he discovers his amazing musical genius in the midst of missing her. And I play a woman who owns an orphanage. And it's a beautiful, inspiring, uplifting story. So that was a thrill to actually be an actress and learn how to act and learn what it's like being on a set, because as a writer, you're all by yourself. But as an actress, you're in the mix with a lot of people. Everybody's coming at you with instructions and directions and do this, and you have to remember your lines and then interact with the other actors, and oh my goodness, it's not easy. But it was exciting. So I'm also a speaker. I'm with the American Program Bureau, and I talk about diversity, being biracial, writing, and I love to speak about all these things that I'm passionate about. So then, when I got divorced about 11 years ago, I started making some realizations about the world in terms of romance. And all of those observations inspired me to write Husbands Incorporated, my latest book, which is an erotic trilogy, an erotic trilogy, and it's about a husbands for hire empire that's going global and sparking all kinds of controversy and backlash. It's really exciting. So I spent most of last year writing. I was a total hermit. One of my friends said I was sequestered because I was just writing, like breakfast to bedtime, I call it. But guess what? It was so amazing. I had so many incredible moments. Like, first of all, to be able to write full time is such a dream come true for me. And so I love it. I love every second of it. It's hard. It requires a ton of discipline. But there were all these amazing moments, like, for example, when you struggle with a scene and then all of a sudden it comes to you and you just like whoosh, typing so fast, like faster than you can think. Amazing. And then I was in the midst of one of these moments, and I always listen to Sirius XM radio, the classical pop station. It's classical music. It's awesome. So I would have that on. And so I remember this one day, all of a sudden, the sun came out and like these beams shot through the window onto my screen as I'm typing furiously. And then this music, I think it was like Beethoven's Fifth or something, like something really dramatic. Just the music just started to play like that. And I was like, oh, or Bolero or something like that. It was just so cool. So I had all these like affirming moments. And in the midst of that, my wellness lifestyle, which I talk about here, is imperative, crucial, because my super healthy lifestyle fuels my ridiculous energy to write that long. Because writing, even though you're sitting, it takes so much energy. I mean, here's what would happen. I would write all day long, and your brain, your synapses are like pow, 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 pow. And then all of a sudden, usually at like 10 o'clock, it was like someone opened a drain in my feet and all the energy had poured out. And I was like, oh my God, I am so tired. How am I going to get out of this chair? And then I would just sit there like all my energy went into this keyboard. All my energy is in this story. These characters just took all my energy. I don't know how I'm going to get up now. Isn't that crazy? But my super healthy diet, vegetables, fruits, all kinds of healthy seeds, chia seeds, good stuff like that, keeps me super energized. So I want to share that kind of stuff too. So then I started my own publishing company, and I published Husbands Incorporated, and I'm going to talk about that too, because that's really exciting, to own it all, to do it yourself, to take charge, to be the deciding force in how you want to create and present is just thrilling, empowering. So in the midst of all of this, I had a spiritual awakening that's gone over the past couple years, and it's been so transformative. I'll be talking about that a lot as well. And that has enhanced my writing, because writing is a very divine act. Sometimes when the information and the characters and the themes come, it just seems to come from heaven. It's really amazing the way it all weaves together in your head and then comes out through your fingertips, and boom, here's a story. Here's characters that people are talking about. It's unbelievable, and I love it so much. And so writing and my spirituality and my wellness, all of that merges into what I do on a daily basis. I love it so much. I'm passionate about it, and I'm so excited to share it with you.